Hello, welcome to this review that was not planned. Kind of. It was planned, but I didn't plan it to come out today. But hello, welcome to my review of the 30th anniversary special of Power Rangers Once and Always. I just finished watching it. I absolutely loved it. So let's dive into it. So, Power Rangers Once and Always is, of course, set 30 years after Mighty Morphin ended, as well as, we get reference to a lot of other past Rangers in it, but it primarily opens up with Billy fighting robot Rita Repulsa with some putties and that. And eventually the OG4 also join in, morphed up of Jason, Trini, Kimberly, Zach, and Tommy. So we have the full OG6 team, and unfortunately, Rita fires a shot that's aimed to kill Billy, but they have Trini jump in and take the blow, and it kills her. So that, to my knowledge, is the second on-screen Ranger death. The first on-screen Ranger death was seen in Power Rangers in Space. Um, so yeah, they pulled voice clips and all that from the proper Mighty Morphin show, and maybe pull stuff from with the other Rangers from their appearance, because I think the only two main ones that have new voices added on into their suit forms is, of course, Billy and Zach, because this is essentially centered around them, but it's mainly centered around not only the return of Rita Repulsa after her supposed death in at the end of Power Rangers in Space, um, and then of course the death of Trini, because I believe it was 2001. Actress Thuy Trang sadly passed away due to uh, a car accident, and so of course when they were doing the 30th anniversary, they wanted to pay homage to Thuy, and they do. I think it was a fantastic job. So we now fast forward to a year later, where Zach, who we find out was a congressman, he gave up that in order to look after Trini's daughter, Min. And for Min throughout this, it's for me it was hit or miss, with her character, but in the end, it all works out. So they go to where they buried Trini, but it turns out that's after a year of nothing. That's when Rita comes back, and the five others except for Zach, the four others I should say except for Zach, morph and fight. Um, but of course, um, like I said, Jason David Frank isn't there. The actress who plays Kimberly isn't in this, and the same with Austin St. John. He isn't in this, but like I said, they're using archived footage. So in order to kind of take them out, they done the plan where Rita essentially wants to capture Power Rangers and use their powers essentially and their life force to power up this time tunnel, and to be able to travel back 30 years into the past to when her human side, or the other Rita, uh, is freed from the dumpster on the moon, and give her the knowledge, the 30-year knowledge that this Rita has. And so they capture Kimberly, Tommy, and Jason, and then of course Billy and Zach, they fall back, and then they initiate the Bandora Protocol. Now, the Bandora Protocol, as well as it's seen on the rebuild of Rita's castle, Bandora's Palace, is a massive reference to the Super Sentai that Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was based off of Zyuranger, because in Zyuranger, what we know as Rita, she's known as Bandora in over there. So that's a nice little callback to Zyuranger as well for that. And so um the neat kind of neat thing is with three of the Rangers out of action, they pull in the other Rangers. So they pull in Rocky, who was the replacement for Jason. They pull in Kat, who was the replacement for the Pink Ranger. And of course, we still have Billy and Zach. So this is the first time they've really been on screen with each other, and mainly Zach, because Zach had, of course, left at some point in Mighty Morphin, um, and he was replaced with Adam and Johnny Young Bosch, who plays Adam. And so this is really their first interaction. Billy was still there, so he obviously had interaction with Rocky and Kat. So it's essentially a sort of new team with those four Rangers, and they inform other Rangers because the putties are attacking all over the world where Power Rangers are, and there's we see a list of all the places that these putties are fighting, and of course it's massive references to other Power Rangers, other Ranger series, and so they of course go to Angel Grove, and they realize that the two monsters that Rita has brought back, the Minotaur and Slizzer, which I'm sad that Slizzer isn't voiced by Bryan Cranston, because he's the one who voiced it in the original. Yes, Walter White voiced two monsters in Power Rangers, as well as he played Zordon in the 2017 Power Ranger movie. But still, I guess they mightn't have been able to get him or afford him, so they had to use a different voice actor, and it's not that bad. Um, but whilst all this is happening, Trini's daughter Min isn't all that happy. She's gun ho on revenge. Essentially, she wants revenge for her mother's death, and she's been training. She's been doing all of that stuff. In the same style that her mother was. That the same style that her mother used throughout her time on the show. The crane style, I believe it was, or yeah, I think it was the crane style. So she then takes the morpher, because even though, so they still have the morpher, the saber-tooth tiger morpher, and so she takes it. She goes to Ernie's Juice Bar, which is another reference to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. She goes to fight the putties. She tries to morph. It ain't happening. Because she has that character development to go through, and so she does a morph. Then Rocky and Zach teleport in. They dispatch the putties. We see Zach do his hip hop keto fighting style, which is fantastic to see again. And so then they all go back to the new command center, which Billy Cranston. Billy basically owns and does, because he's this big tech genius, and he's built now Alpha 9, which I can't remember the last Alpha we seen. It might be Alpha 6. I think Alpha 6 was the last one. And then we learn how Rita has come back. And through the Z-Wave, when Zordon was destroyed at the end of In Space, when he got rid of, at that time, all the evil in the world, it basically, when the wave went through them, it took the evil out with that wave. So the evil is still kind of in the morphing grid, essentially. And what Billy thought and hoped was getting getting Zordon back, it was actually Rita, and Rita ends up going into Alpha 8 and turns into Robo Rita. And that's a really good explanation, because I remember seeing a lot of people wondering how that's going to, like, how Rita came back, because the Z-Wave essentially should have killed all the evil in her. Um, but it explains it that way, and so they devise a plan because the Minotaur and Slither are able to track morphed rangers, and then at Rita's palace we do see that they have captured a bunch of different rangers, and I did have to pause and literally get up close to my screen to see what rangers they were taking, and it's reference to Wild Force in space, Beast Morphers, um, which was a reference to not the new season that's coming out or the last season, which was Dino Fury, I believe, and Cosmic Fury is the new one that's coming out. It was the one before that, and I also seen Dino Thunder on there, um, as well as the. I actually have the comics here. Give me 1 second. She actually managed to capture this ranger, who's from reading this comic, he's built off of pure morphing grid energy, essentially. And what I love actually about this comic, side tangent here, in this comic, that's actually little Rita Repulsa there, before Master Vile got to her and turned her into Rita Repulsa. Anyway, side tangent over. Um, so they essentially it ends, with them coming up with a plan to take Slither and Minotaur out of the equation because they're robots. Just use a giant magnet, and it almost works. I'll get to that. So then they use some invisibility tech that Billy has been tooling with, and he again goes on. They all go to Bandora's palace, but obviously, as I said with Min's character, she's really out for revenge, and it's only been a year essentially from the death of her mother, and um yeah, so she takes one of the invisibility yokes. She uses that. She grabs the morpher and her mother's morpher, and she essentially goes to where the Minotaur and Slither are, planning to destroy them. Kill them. That doesn't happen. She tries to morph again. That doesn't happen. And then who just so happens to be there? Rita. What happens? She gets captured, and they all go back to the palace, and that's when big fight happens. They learn that in order to free these other rangers, they need to destroy Slither, and so big fight, and Rita goes to shoot another blast at Billy to kill him, but Min does what her mother done, obviously, and jumps in front of that to take that blast, but it doesn't kill her. It actually, because of the morpher that she has, the morpher, and of course essentially her mother, protects her, and that gives her the ability to morph into the saber-toothed tiger, and she does. And then of course what we thought was they thought Billy jammed um his staff into Robo Rita and killed her, and because she sends Slither out and says the iconic line, "Staff, make my monster grow." He does. They call him the Megazord, and it's this really good CG shot. Like the entire fight is all CG, which I'm not used to, because when I was watching Power Rangers, it was whenever it was a Zord battle, versus the big monster, it was always people in suits. That's how they used the footage from Super Sentai. That's how the Super Sentai done it. And for a while now, that's all CG and all that. And like I said, the CG Megazord looks really, really good. It doesn't look as bulky as it did 30 years ago when there was someone in the suit. And eventually they destroy Minotaur, and all five Rangers are now in the Zord. And but it turns out Rita ain't dead, and she has enough power to create the time portal. And then we see a redubbed version of the kind of intro of the very first episode, where the two astronauts free Rita, but At that point, they destroy Slizzard in the Megazord, and they come back and they finally destroy Rita. Or do they? Because it kind of looked like Rita might have teleported. Now, that's just me. I might need to go back and rewatch that scene, but it kind of looked like Rita teleported. So maybe she's out there, and that's what the Cosmic Fury people are going to have to deal with, because from what I've been keeping up with, from Dino Fury anyway, um, they constantly keep bringing back Lord Zed, who's also another. I think it was Lord Zed was a Power Ranger owned villain, not a Super Sentai villain. Um, so yeah, and then it ends, and it ends with we see Ashley, who took over from Trini. We also see Adam, because they're out in space dealing with that in the SPA, which I think might be a reference to SPD, Space Patrol Delta, which is a Power Ranger series that actually takes place in 2 years time, in 2025. Um, but maybe that they might just have that as its own separate universe. But then again, I don't know, because it did have two crossovers with Dino Thunder, and we do know Dino Thunder's in the main timeline. They're doing timelines. I don't know. I don't know. But as a whole, as an anniversary special, I enjoyed it. I genuinely loved this special. I loved it because I may not watch Power Rangers anymore. The last full Power Ranger season I watched was Mystic Force, which was back in 2008, I want to say. Um, 2008, 2009, one of the two. I can't remember exactly. But that was the last time I actually watched a full season of Power Rangers. But I still do keep up with it, and whenever there's an anniversary special, I tend to watch it because I'm like, oh, they're bringing back, essentially the anniversary specials are designed to bring back former Rangers. The very first anniversary special took place in Power Rangers Wild Force, which was Forever Red, which brought back the 10 Red Rangers at that time. We got to see Austin St. John come back for the very first, well, not for the very first time, but since his departure in Zeo. And then, of course, Jason David Frank and all the other Red Rangers. And then the next anniversary special took place in Operation Overdrive, which was called Once a Ranger. And that wasn't the best. Then again, Operation Overdrive, from what I've heard and what I've seen from that episode, isn't the best Power Ranger season. And then the next Rangers anniversary special, I believe, was in Super Mega Force, because it was the 20th anniversary, and so, well, the 20th anniversary for Power Rangers, I think like the 30th anniversary for Super Sentai. So what they done was they brought back all the Rangers for that. Now, a lot of those Rangers, that were brought back for that special weren't there. It was kind of like just other people in the suits, and using, if they were there, they would use, reused footage and that. Reused voices, like they did with Tommy, Kimberly, and Jason and Trini in this episode, in this special. And then the next one after that was the Super Ninja Steel special, and then of course there was the Beast Morpher special. Now, I'm I don't know how I'm happy with the Rangers that we got back. We got to see Steve Cardenas in his second ever return to Power Rangers, because after he left in Turbo, in the Turbo movie, he hasn't really returned in any of the other Ranger specials until the Super Ninja Steel special, when they brought him back for the Red Dino Ranger from Mighty Morphin. With Cat, we have, with Catherine Sutherland, I believe is her name. She has come back a few times. Since I think the first time she came back was the Super Megaforce special, and then it was of course the Super Ninja Steel special, and then of course we see Johnny Young Bosch come back, but the trailer made it look like him and the actress who plays Ashley had more to do, but they were only really in two scenes, um, and that was that. Obviously, I'm super pumped that and I was super pumped that we got to see David Yost and Walter Jones come back, because they haven't come back. This is their first real comeback to the show since they left. With Walter Jones, he left in the middle of Mighty Morphin, but David Yost left during the early stages of Turbo because of how he was treated for being a gay man. And he's been very open about that. And to see him return, to see him play Billy again, is absolutely amazing. I absolutely love it. Now, I was wondering how they're going to mention, his stint on Aquitar, because that's what they done, um, when he just walked off set and never came back. Um, but they do mention it at the end. They do mention it at the end, which is good. I was expecting them to. I was hoping that they would actually mention it. But yeah, I genuinely loved it. I think it's on par with Forever Red for me, but Forever Red is just that bit better. Uh, you know, but it was a good 55-minute watch. I definitely, like I said, I really enjoyed it. And the ending where they played a scene from Mighty Morphin with Kimberly and Zach singing a song, and then of course the last second we focuses on Jason David Frank and Twee Trang. That got me because Jason David Frank isn't here anymore, and he was a personal hero of mine, uh, and I never got to meet him. He took his own life last year, and it sucks. It really sucks. But hey, he's always going to be a ranger, and he's always going to be a hero to everyone. And this this special really done justice for Twee Trang, um, and I'm happy that they done it. So, on that note, before I start tearing up again, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you all on Sunday for my monthly live stream with Ian over at Ian Hill's The Rambling and Ryan from Let's Get Kicking Movie. We're going to be talking about Doctor Who. I'm planning for it to be 2 hours, but it may go on longer. I don't know. We will see. But thank you all for watching. I'll see you all on Sunday. Yeah, I'll see you all on Sunday.